If you thought our first video covered the weirdest sci-fi and fantasy TV crossovers ever unleashed on the world, it turns out we barely scratched the surface. Because TV history is a goldmine of chaotic multiverse energy. We're talking cartoon icons crashing into live-action worlds, superheroes sharing universes they absolutely shouldn't, and crossovers so random you'd swear someone dreamed them up after falling asleep in front of the TV. So welcome to part 2 of our journey through the most delightfully bizarre TV crossovers ever aired. Grab your popcorn, things are about to get weird all over again. Power Rangers in space, plus Ninja Turtles, the next mutation. If you grew up in the 90s, this crossover may still live rent-free in your brain. In one of the wildest TV mashups ever aired, the Power Rangers teamed up with none other than the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it was exactly as bonkers as it sounds. The plot? Astronema brainwashes the Turtles into joining the forces of evil. The Rangers then are forced to battle the Turtles before teaming up to take down the bad guys. It's campy, chaotic, and a perfect time capsule of that era of kids' action shows. It might not be peak TV, but it is definitely unforgettable. Wizards of Waverly Place, plus The Sweet Life on Deck, plus Hannah Montana. Disney Channel crossover events were basically the Super Bowl for tweens, and the Wizards on Deck with Hannah Montana mega crossover was utter chaos. First up, the Russo family from Wizards boards the cruise ship, where Alex immediately causes magical mayhem. Then the chaos rolls into the Sweet Life storyline, where the cast mixes with the Hannah Montana universe. Finally, the crossover ends with Hannah Montana performing a concert that almost doesn't happen. Was the plot convoluted? Absolutely. But did an entire generation lose its mind watching these 3 shows collide? Without a doubt. And if that weren't enough, 3 years earlier, Disney also crossed the Sweet Life of Zack and Cody and Hannah Montana with That's So Raven, which was the crossover that began the Disney Channel universe. Early Edition plus Chicago Hope. In the late 90s, CBS quietly created its own mini crossover moment by linking the heartwarming sci-fi drama Early Edition with the medical drama Chicago Hope. In this crossover, Gary, the man who receives tomorrow's newspaper today, crosses paths with the doctors of Chicago Hope as he tries to prevent his friend Marissa from dying. The fun came from watching Gary's time twist premise collide with the more realistic tone of Chicago Hope. It wasn't flashy, but it showed how even the most grounded shows can dip their toe into fantasy in the right circumstances. And later, Early Edition also crossed over with the martial arts comedy Martial Law, proving Gary's ability to wander through TV genres was basically limitless. Batman plus the Green Hornet. In the world of 60s TV, Batman was king of colorful chaos, so when the much more serious Green Hornet dropped in for a visit, the tonal whiplash was half the fun. This crossover marked the Green Hornet's second appearance on the show, the first being a window cameo during one of Batman's famous wall climbs. But the real crossover came later, in the 2-part episode where Batman and Robin go head-to-head with the Green Hornet and Kato before eventually teaming up. Watching the campy Cape Crusaders share the screen with the stoic deadpan duo is truly surreal. And speaking of window cameos, among many others, Batman 66 also featured a quick crossover gag with the Addams Family, proving that the show had no problem smashing different universes together. Alf plus Gilligan's Island. If you ever wondered whether Alf would survive being stranded on an island, apparently NBC did too. In one of the strangest crossovers ever made, Alf becomes obsessed with Gilligan's Island and ends up dreaming that he's actually on the island himself. Except the castaways are nothing like their sitcom counterparts. They're older, crankier, and bitter from years of being stuck there. And then comes the craziest moment. At night, the castaways kick back to watch TV on a janky set the professor built. And their favorite show is The Tanners. Yes, Alf's own sitcom life is their escapist fantasy. It feels like fan fiction written during a fever dream. Bizarre, meta, yet undeniably charming in that how on earth did this get greenlit kind of way. Red Dwarf plus Coronation Street. In 2009, Red Dwarf basically said, what if our raunchy space sitcom crashed directly into a grounded British soap about working class life? And thus, we got this Red Dwarf and Coronation Street crossover. In the Red Dwarf Back to Earth miniseries, the crew becomes convinced they're fictional characters in a TV series called Red Dwarf. And after learning they're slated to die in the series finale, they attempt to track down the show's creators and plead for their lives, only to end up wandering onto the set of Coronation Street. It's meta and completely bonkers. It shouldn't work, but somehow it did. Star Trek Deep Space Nine plus Star Trek the Original Series. One of the greatest Trek crossovers isn't technically a crossover at all, it's a technical miracle. In the DS9 episode Trials and Tribble-ations, the crew is flung back to the events of the original series episode The Trouble with Tribbles, where they must quietly stop an assassination attempt on Captain James T. Kirk. Thanks to flawless digital compositing, the DS9 cast is inserted directly into 60s Trek footage, letting them interact with the original characters as if they'd been there all along. It's nostalgic and impressively seamless, essentially a love letter to the franchise's past, and one of the most beloved episodes in Trek history. Time travel has rarely been used this joyfully. Bones plus Family Guy. No, you weren't imagining it. Yes, this really happened. In a moment so bizarre it became instantly iconic, Stewie Griffin from Family Guy appears as a hallucination in Bones. When Booth starts doubting himself, Stewie shows up as his sarcastic, animated shoulder devil, helping him realize that Booth wants Brennan to have a baby with him for real. A live-action crime procedural featuring a cartoon baby yelling at a grown man? It's unhinged television at its finest. The crossover doesn't break the world, but it's one of the most unexpected fourth-wall teetering moments in network TV. Shazam plus The Secrets of Isis. Long before modern superhero crossovers dominated comic book TV, the 1970s gave us one of the earliest examples of a connected, live-action superhero universe. Shazam followed Billy, a teen who roamed the country in an RV with his guardian mentor, transforming into Captain Marvel whenever trouble appeared. Meanwhile, The Secrets of Isis centered on a teacher who gained the powers of an ancient Egyptian goddess. Both were live-action shows from Filmation, and in 1975, they were officially united as the Shazam Isis Hour. Even better, the crossover went both ways. Isis showed up on Shazam episodes to lend her mystical muscle, while Captain Marvel appeared on Isis to return the favor. Their team-ups were earnest, charming, and very Saturday morning wholesome. Honorable mentions. Before we wrap, here are a few more crossover oddities that didn't make the main list, but absolutely deserve a nod. First up, Star Trek Strange New Worlds quietly establishing a shared universe with Doctor Who, in not one, but two blink and you'll miss it moments. First, the TARDIS shows up in the background of a scene in Season 3, Episode 6, and then, in the finale, Pelia casually mentions a time-traveling doctor she used to know. Not a full-on crossover, but a wink so massive, fans practically felt the ground shake. Stargate, Atlantis, and Blindspot also dipped into crossover territory thanks to Bill Nye, who appeared in both series, and even name-dropped Dr. Rodney McKay as his academic rival on Blindspot. And finally, Star Trek and Night Court have shared a universe more than once, most memorably when John Larroquette reprised his Klingon persona for an episode of the Night Court reboot. A crossover no one asked for, but absolutely everyone appreciated. Arrowverse plus Lucifer plus The Flash plus Smallville. The Arrowverse didn't just create a shared DC TV universe, it cracked open the multiverse like a cosmic piñata. During their Crisis on Infinite Earths event, we got one of the coolest crossover moments ever, Grant Gustin's Flash meeting Ezra Miller's Flash. Yes, TV Flash and movie Flash interacted canonically. But the madness didn't end there. Tom Ellis's Lucifer also appears in the crossover, casually confirming that his hellish universe exists within the same multiverse as the Arrowverse. And if you kept watching, you even got a return to Smallville, with Tom Welling reprising his Clark Kent, making this a crossover between four totally different interpretations of DC. It wasn't just fan service, it was fan mayhem, the kind DC fans still talk about today. And that wraps up part 2 of TV's most delightfully unhinged crossovers. Is there another bizarre mashup you think deserves a shout-out? Tell us in the comments so we can keep the crossover madness going. If you enjoyed this trip through TV's wild multiverse, swing by tvshowpilot.com for more great TV content, and make sure you're subscribed to the TV Show Pilot YouTube channel so you don't miss the next deep dive.